Well, I'm joined in the studio now by Fran Brown, whose tweets were mentioned just now by Katie, and by Alan Benson. Alan Benson, I should start with you, I suppose, because we haven't heard your story. We heard a bit of Fran's story. What happened to you today?
Well, I wanted to get off at Twickenham Station, but couldn't. It's inaccessible, so I had to get off at an unmanned station.
When you say it's inaccessible, you mean there's no ramp on the train, or what?
There are stairs, and the stair lift, I've been told, is broken, and has been for months. So I got off at the station before and walked, and then coming back, the guard just left me on the platform and wouldn't get off to give me a hand with the ramp. So I then missed that train and had to catch the next one.
And there was some incident in which you wanted to ring the bell for help.
At the unmanned stations, you're supposed to use the call help button that's on all the platforms, but it's just too high for me to reach.
You can't lift your arm that high.
Because I can't reach that high, yes.
Right. Fran, well, I should say in South West trains now say that lift, although there were some problems at some point, is now working. So whether you can guarantee that when going home, I wouldn't want to be the
I will let you know.
Thanks. Fran, your experience today, I mean, I cannot believe, of course I do, I know that you're a paraclimber, so you must have immensely strong arms.
Yes.
But you literally bump your way down the stairs and hope somebody will help you carry the chair.
Yes, it's a fairly common occurrence. I do it on the National Rail, and also my local tube station is inaccessible. And it takes about 45 minutes by bus to get to the equivalent accessible station. So for a 7-minute journey, I quite often get on. It's not acceptable, but I get on the tube that way.
What about ordinary members of the public? I mean, how often do people say, "Can I help?"
Quite often. And it is, without people's help, I think you'd agree.
Absolutely.
Without people's help, we wouldn't get most of the places we get to. Just members of the public, so more helpful than staff.
See, there is a problem, Alan. Sometimes people don't offer because they think perhaps you might not want them to offer.
On the whole, people are very accommodating and just check, is there anything I can do? Is there anything you need? And all it needs is for them to raise the attention of platform staff, remind the guards that you're on the train sometimes. I travel daily. I work at Richmond Adult Community College, so I commute daily. And the staff at the stations that I work at are very switched on. They're very accommodating, very helpful. So that journey is easy, but the minute you step outside of that normal, then it becomes quite difficult.
Now, the steps that you bump your way down and get your wheelchair down somehow with you as well, these were all built in the sort of 19th century, some of them, the end of the 19th century, early 20th century. What's the solution? I mean, rebuild the underground? I mean,
oh no, of course, that would in a way be too expensive. Perhaps buses that we didn't have to fight buggies to get onto, or bus drivers that could use the ramp. I quite often come across bus drivers who don't use the ramp properly, so it comes out and hits the curb and then you can't get on. On the tube, some stations are quite easy to fix. A little hump to bridge that gap up to the train would make so many of the accessible to platform stations accessible to train, and that costs virtually nothing.
But you're a touch older, so you've had much greater experience. I'm just wondering whether you really feel things are improving or whether things are static.
I've been doing this now 20-odd years, and certainly there are more accessible buses, but that doesn't stop the drivers taking one look at you and driving straight past, which is quite a regular occurrence. Now, a lot of these things could just be solved by relatively cheap, relatively easy things. And if you make them more accessible for disabled people, it makes them more accessible for everybody else.
Well, we've got the Paralympics coming, and one suspects that Paralympians will be transported in some gracious mechanism and they'll never experience what you're experiencing. Or do you think that will cause a bit of uplift?
I do think it will cause problems. I think it will cause problems for spectators, because there's plenty of spectators with disabilities going to the Olympics and the Paralympics. Stratford Station today, to get on the Central line, going eastbound, I have to ask a member of the public to help because of the step up to the platform.
That's an incredible statement. You mean the key Olympic tube station is not wheelchair friendly? It
is in some areas, but the Central line eastbound, for example, is not. There is a step up to the train this far. And there's no way around that. There's a lift to the platform, step up to the train. If they built a little hump of concrete so you could wheel onto the train, and there are accessible stations further down the line you can go to.
Well, we'll check in with Stratford Station and see if they want to respond to that. Thank you both very, very warmly for coming in.